The President. Questions. Question 1, Mr. Tony TSE. Thank you, President. There are views pointing out that in recent years, a number of incidents involving train services of the MTR Corporation Limited, MTRCL, have occurred. These include signaling system failures, a train derailment, door detachment, and a number of escalator steps breakage incidents this month. It raises doubts over the repair, maintenance, and inspection quality of the existing MTR facilities. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, of MTR's follow-up work regarding the incidents which happened this month, 2, of the staffing establishments and estimated expenditures of Policy Bureau and government departments currently responsible for the monitoring of railway services, and whether performance indicators have been formulated for the monitoring work, and 3, given that the government is a majority shareholder of MTRCL and has appointed official representatives to the board of directors, whether and specifically how the government and such official representatives have discharged the duty of monitoring the railway services provided by the MTRCL, and whether they have requested the MTRCL to enhance the repair, maintenance, and inspection quality of existing facilities. Thank you. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President. Railway is an important part of public transport in Hong Kong, with an average patronage of over 4 million passenger trips per day. Railway safety is of utmost importance, and the MTRCL is duty-bound to provide safe and reliable railway services. The government has all along required the MTRCL to carry out stringent railway inspection, maintenance, and renewal to ensure the safety and reliability of the railway system. In consultation with the MTRCL, the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, EMSD, and the Transport Department, TD, my reply to the question raised by Mr. TSE is as follows. 1. Following the MTR Tsuen Wan Line train incident on the 13th of November 2022, MTR station staff immediately carry out detrainment and arrange shuttle buses to serve train stations affected by the incident. The MTRCL also maintained close liaison with the Emergency Transport Coordination Center of the TD to review and adjust the shuttle bus services according to passengers' needs and traffic conditions. Following the incident, the MTRCL worked hard on the recovery works, including jacking the off-the-rail bogie back onto the rail and moving the train away from the site, replacing relevant track equipment, and carrying out detailed inspection and repair of the trackside signaling equipment and power supply system installation. After completion of the works and that safe operation was confirmed, Tsuen Wan Line services resumed normal on the next day. On investigation of the incident at the government's request, the MTRCL submitted a preliminary report on the 16th of November, indicating that the incident was related to the collision of the train and a trackside metallic protection barrier. The MTRCL has conducted inspections and maintenance works for similar barriers across the MTR network. At the request of the EMSD, the MTRCL will also conduct a comprehensive review of trackside equipment and structures of the entire network and explore the use of technology to strengthen real-time monitoring of trackside facilities. On incident handling, the MTRCL is reviewing relevant arrangements to ensure proper handling of emergencies and to protect passengers' safety. The MTRCL has also established an investigation panel and invited experts to assist in looking into the cause of the incident. The MTRCL should submit a detailed investigation report to the government within 2 months. Besides the cause of the incident, the detailed report will also include comprehensive improvement measures and implementation plan to prevent reoccurrence. Regarding the escalator incidents at Chai Wan Station and Tsim Sha Tsui Station on the 12th and 13th of November, the MTRCL arranged registered escalator contractor to conduct detailed inspections of the escalators immediately afterwards. The inspections review that both incidents were related to the wedging of passengers' shoes or clothing between steps. As many escalator incidents are related to the wedging of foreign objects, the MTRCL will step up its publicity efforts to educate the public on the proper use of escalators to prevent accidents. 2. At present, the Transport and Logistics Bureau (TLB) oversees and monitors the policies on transport and railway safety concerning the MTR's operation and services. The Railways branch of the EMSD regulates the railway system pursuant to the Mass Transit Railway Ordinance Cap 556. On the other hand, the TD monitors the service performance of the railway network and ensures that MTRCL provides proper and efficient service in accordance with the operating agreement entered into with the government. As the statutory regulator of railway safety, the EMSD inspects railway facilities or systems to ensure the MTRCL has properly conducted repair and maintenance works to ensure and enhance railway safety. In 2020 and 2021, the EMSD conducted 408 and 418 inspections respectively. This exceeds the target number of inspections by about 5%. As of September this year, the EMSD has conducted 372 inspections, which is nearly 90% of the target of 420 inspections for the entire year. Regarding staffing establishment, there are 6 posts in the Railway Operations and Services section of the TLB to take charge of the transport policies on railway operations and ferry services. The railway branch of the EMSD has 64 posts responsible for regulating the MTR system, the tramways, the peak tram, and the automated people mover at the airport. In the Railway Monitoring Division under the Bus and Railway branch of the TD, there are 9 posts regulating and monitoring MTR and tram services. Other sections of the TD are also responsible for railway-related matters, including incident coordination and planning of transport facilities related to new railways. As regulation of railway services is part of the regular duties of the above staff, we do not have a breakdown of the estimated expenditure in this respect. 3. Day-to-day business of the MTRCL are managed by the Chief Executive Officer CEO and the Executive Committee comprising senior executives who report to the Board of Directors. The CEO submits a report at each board meeting to present matters including railway services and safety performance. The MTRCL management also presents the overall Hong Kong transport service performance to the board each year, and if necessary, it will report to the board investigation results of major incidents. Government directors have been monitoring the operation of the MTRCL through relevant reports and reflecting views on matters relating to the management, operation, and repair, as well as maintenance issues from time to time to ensure that their governance and strategies are up to date and responsive to public expectations. On the other hand, government's monitoring of the MTRCL is not confined to a board level. As mentioned above, relevant government departments have been closely monitoring the performance of the company on railway operation and maintenance through various platforms. The report is submitted by them, as well as on-site inspections. These efforts ensure the duties performed and services provided meet the government's regulatory requirement to keep up with the provision of safety, reliable, and efficient railway services to the public. Thank you. Mr. Chair, the MTRCL has been known for its efficiency and punctuality, as well as safety. But in recent days, we've heard about a spate of incidents relating to railway service disruption and escalator incidents. In the policy address, there are proposals about 3 new railway lines. Taking into account ongoing projects, there are about 6 or 7 or up to 8 new railway lines. But does it mean that the MTRCL is only focusing on new projects and has neglected existing projects? Secretary, what will the government do to prevent the occurrence of future incidents or accidents? Thank you. In the monitoring of safety regarding railway services, in my main reply, I have already answered. that the Board of Directors will oversee the performance of the MTRCL. On top of that, there is the Railways branch of the EMSD. This branch is the statutory regulator of railway safety. It adopts an approach of risk-based inspection and will, if necessary, proactively check and investigate into this system and incidents. On railway safety, apart from the work of the EMSD, which is risk-based, the government has also urged the MTRCL to enhance preventive repair and maintenance and the use of technology. Let me give you an example. Starting from 2018, the EMSD and the MTRCL have put in place a number of pilot measures using technology and innovation. One is the use of AI, image analysis to monitor equipment. The second project is to use AI on track equipment inspection. It has been awarded a number of prizes from Geneva in 2022. The MTRCL will continue to use technology on other aspects to ensure railway safety and to enhance it. Mr. Gary Dang. Thank you, President. To regulate and supervise better, you need to set down KPIs. Members of the public don't really understand about the performance of the MTRCL apart from the information on their annual report. They always say that they've achieved 99.9%, so the public cannot tell whether they have done better or worse. I would like to ask the government what indicators they use to monitor the performance of the MTRCL. Will they disclose such indicators so that the public will learn how to monitor the performance of the MTRCL? Thank you, President. We have been monitoring the safety performance of the MTRCL. They have been delivering stable performance. With the expansion of railway network, service disruption of up to 8 minutes has stayed on a low side. That is, for every meters, there's only 0.8 incidents relating in service disruption. That is in relation to every million kilometer. So they will conduct repair and maintenance work accordingly. Mr. Andrew Lam, the monitoring of the MTRCL's work is scattered over various departments. And there was a suggestion to set up a railway department by combining the different portfolio from different departments and bureaus under one roof. I would like to ask whether there is any progress in this regard. Under the TLB, we propose to set up a new railway department to monitor the work of a railway service and to enhance their performance, as well as to supervise new railway projects. This new railways department is to amalgamate the railway operations services section and the railway branch. We will give them more manpower. In the policy address, a number of railway and road projects have been announced. We will go to the LegCo to make a report as and when needed. Mr. Dominic Lee. Thank you. Under the current mechanism, when there is an incident, there will be a penalty. Last year, there was a penalty of 10 million. The highest number is about 80 million. For the MTRCL, it's a small number. It's a small amount. Would the government consider changing the mechanism? Instead of penalizing the company, they should penalize the management of the MTRCL should something happens. Mr. Lee is right in that there is a penalty system in place. And his figures are correct too. As to whether the management of the company should be penalized, well, if something happens, we will ask the MTRCL to consider our views. And every year, we ask the MTRCL to consider their performance when dispersing bonuses. The gravity of the incidents, the frequency of incidents will be taken into account. That's what we ask them to do. Anything to add from the Secretary? No. Members, please don't speak from your seat. Mr. Chan Kin-po. Thank you. Facilities of the MTRCL have been in use for a very long time, so there is a higher chance of accidents. Of course, I hope the company will reduce the frequency of incidents. But I'd like to ask whether they have any contingency plans or regular drills to reduce the impact on the public and on its service to a minimum. Can I hear the question again, Mr. Chen Kin-po? The important part of my question is whether the MTRCL or the government has any contingency plan or regular drills to ensure that there is a minimum impact on the public and to lower the risk of fatalities and injuries should something happen. Yes, there are drills. When it comes to detrainment or evacuation, that is an important part of the drills. In the event of evacuation, it should be done via the platform, safe and except in exceptional circumstances. After the incident on the 13th of November, we have reminded the MTRCL drivers will receive refresher courses about the trainment arrangements. Dr. MNU, thank you. The facilities of the MTRCL are aging. I have been asking them to add toilets in Choi Hong and in Ngau Khao Kok Kun Tong Kowloon Wan to add fans. It's a no, and all my requests have been rejected. So I'd like to ask, in the upcoming fare adjustment mechanism, will they require the MTRCL to set aside a certain percentage for repair and maintenance of facilities? Mr. Ngan, Dr. Ngan, your question is irrelevant to the question asked today. Anything to add from the Secretary? I'm sure that in relation to the In relation to toilet facilities, the member has been in communication with the MTRCL. If it can't be done, of course, there are reasons. I will talk to the MTRCL about this as well. Mr. Yang Wing-kit. Thank you. We've heard about a frequent escalator incidents. It's very dangerous to passengers. Will the administration consider escalator incidents in the performance assessment? When these things happen, will the MTRCL be fined? I think this is the only way for them to attach importance on escalator safety. Secretary. There are about 100 stations in the entire network. There is a considerable number of escalators. We serve about 4 million passenger trips per day. Regarding escalator incidents, the frequency is similar to other incidents. But of course, we attach importance to every single incident. In my main reply, I have already said that the MTRCL will step up their publicity and public education in the proper use of escalators. Thank you. Mr. Luk Chung Hong. Thank you. We see from the numerous accidents that the level of maintenance and repair by the MTRCL is dropping, but we should not blame frontline workers. They simply don't have enough resources and manpower. There is a succession problem, and it shows that the company has abused outsourced companies. We see that they use outsiders in maintenance and repair work. Does the administration have any figures about the use of agency workers, outsourced contractors? And do they have any suggestions to reduce brain drain? Well, I don't have such information, and I will get the information and figures from the MTRCL for discussion.
Question 2.
Members, the Secretary has already answered that there is no figure.
Question 2, the Honorable Michael TIEN. Thank you, President. A train door detachment incident involved a Metro Camal Electric Multiple Unit, commonly known as M-Train of the MTR Corporation Limited, occurred in December last year. Doors of an M-Train ripped off again due to train derailment this month. In this connection, would the government inform this council? 1. Given that after the door detachment incident last year, I wrote to the government requesting that MTR be instructed to use the latest technology to inspect the doors of other M-Trains so as to ensure that the train doors were free from anomalies such as metal fatigue. Whether it knows if MTR has used the latest technology such as ultrasound to conduct a comprehensive inspection of the doors and guardrails of all M trains. 2. Whether it will, in response to the door detachment incident occurred this month, request MTR to fully adopt ultrasound technology to inspect the doors and guardrails of all M trains. And 3. As MTR announced in 2015 that 93 8-car trains, commonly known as Q trains, would be purchased to replace all M trains, and it has been reported that such trains have been delivered to Hong Kong gradually. Whether the government will request MTR to replace all M trains with Q trains before the end of next year. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, the maintenance, repair, renewal, and enhancement of assets of the railway system are of paramount importance to the continuous provision of safe, reliable, and efficient railway services. The government has always urged the MTRCL to strictly follow its asset management procedures, to provide regular maintenance for its trains, tracks, power supply systems, and components of the signaling systems, etc. The MTRCL should also enhance or renew such system as and when necessary according to the functions, effectiveness, and asset service life to ensure the operation of safety and to uphold the high service standards of the railway system. In consultation with the MTRCL and the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, EMSD, my reply to the question raised by the Hon Michael TIEN is as follows. 1 and 2. Regarding the train door dislodgement incident at Causeway Bay Station on the MTR Island Line on the 2nd of December 2021, MTRCL's investigation confirmed that the incident was caused by the leaning out of an improperly secured movable access panel of a convertible trackside billboard, which hit and dislodged the doors of the train entering the platform. As for the train incident on the MTR Chunwan Line on the 13th of November this year, the preliminary investigation found that the incident was caused by the collision between the train and a metallic protection barrier on the trackside. According to the MTRCL and the EMSD, the two incidents have not been found to be related to metal fatigue of the train doors. Having said so, the cause of the incident on the 13th of November this year remains to be investigated in full. The MTRCL has established maintenance procedures for different railway assets having regard to the respective properties. The maintenance staff will carry out maintenance work in accordance with the relevant procedures, including inspection and replacement of parts, as well as arranging the asset renewal according to the conditions. As far as the trains are concerned, train captains will check the smooth operation of train doors before departing from the depot for passenger service each day and report any irregularities to the maintenance department of the depot for follow-up. According to the maintenance guidelines of the corporation, maintenance staff will conduct detailed inspection of the doors of the MTR urban lines, including Kwun Tong Line, Chunwan Line, Island Line, and Zhangguanou Line, trains after approximately every 8,000 kilometers of train service to ensure that they are in good condition. EMSD also commenced a comprehensive and direct assessment C&DA in December 2021 to conduct sample inspection of the repair and maintenance procedures, the implementation, as well as repair and maintenance record of train doors of all railway lines. The assessment results confirmed that the MTRCL's repair and maintenance work in respect of train doors were generally in order. Doors of trains running on all railway lines were generally in good condition and posed no danger to train operations. Subsequently, MTRCL also engaged experts to carry out strength tests and analysis on the metallic material of door guides and other structural components. The relevant test results revealed that the structure of train doors was sound and in good condition. Following the incident of train door dislodgement at Causeway Bay Station on MTR Island Line late last year, the MTRCL has strengthened its maintenance regime for trackside advertising panels by introducing preventive maintenance and installing remote monitoring sensing devices with alert function to ensure proper locking of the advertising panels with a view to preventing reoccurrence of similar incidents. The government will also continue to follow up on the investigation of the train incident on MTR Chunwan Line to identify the cause and follow up on the implementation plan of the improvement measures, including the exploration of using technology to strengthen the monitoring as well as repair maintenance of the railway system to ensure safety and reliability. 3. Some of the first-generation trains, commonly known as M trains, running on the 4th urban lines have been in service since 1979. Considering that Those trains will be gradually reaching the end of their asset life. MTRCL announced the purchase of 93 new trains, commonly known as Q trains, in 2015 to replace the first-generation trains for the urban lines in phases to enhance the traveling experience of passengers. The original plan was for the new trains to commence service in phases as the urban line signaling system upgrading project progressed. However, as there is a delay in the signaling system upgrading project, the commissioning of the new trains have to be deferred. To facilitate early commissioning of the new trains according to the latest schedule of the urban line signaling system upgrading project, MTRCL has fitted the existing signaling system, the SASM system, on some of the new trains and worked with the train supplier to adjust certain design and hardware of the trains so as to put the trains into service as early as possible using the existing signaling system. The new trains fitted with the existing signaling equipment are being shipped to Hong Kong progressively, following the completion of a series of statutory testing and with the confirmation from relevant government departments, including the EMSD and the Transport Department, that is safe for operation. The first new train with the existing signaling system was put into service on the Kwun Tong line last Sunday, that is the 27th of November. MTRCL has drawn up a train replacement plan to progressively put the new trains into service in accordance with the delivery schedule, inspection and testing procedures, retirement schedule of the first generation trains, etc. Following the commencement of train replacement in Kwun Tong line, the new trains will be put into service progressively on the Island Line, 319 and 210 line starting from early 2024, and all trains are expected to be put into service in 2028 to 2029. Thank you. Mr. Michael TIEN, President. There was a major train door dislodgement incident last year, and when the former CE followed up on that, I asked that the 5,000 odd doors of M trains be checked and replaced to see whether there was metallic fatigue. MTRCL only promised to do random checking, and the finding was they were by and large good. And then there was another train door dislodgement incident last month. I have no faith in these old trains, and I think all the trains should be replaced. For M trains, it's made of aluminum, and for Q trains, they are made of stainless steel. The possibility of dislodgement is much lower. Now, in 2015, Q trains were purchased, and most of them are completed and starting to be delivered. Why don't we replace them as soon as possible? Why do we have to wait until 2028? What is more important than safety? Secretary. Thank you. As I said, whether we talk about 311 line or Island Line, that is the dislodgement of train doors. They were caused by collision with foreign objects outside the train. The report has already been completed, and for the Causeway Bay Station incident, the investigation report will be available in 2 months, and by then we'll be able to know the cause of the incident. Now, as far as the Causeway Bay Station incident is concerned, according to the report, it was because of collision with an advertising billboard, as mentioned in my main reply. Whether we're talking about Q trains or M trains, in 2015, M trains were ordered, or Q trains, and then 17 of them have been delivered to Hong Kong, and the remaining will be delivered to Hong Kong according to schedule. Before Q trains can be put into service, we have to carry out very detailed checking, passive and active tests, and also they have to be put on trial run. So there are procedures to follow for M trains and Q trains. They also have new procedures. In my main reply, I said that according to our original plan, trains fitted with new signaling systems will be put into service as we progress with our signaling system upgrading project. However, there's been a delay because of a problem with our signaling system project in 2013. There has been a delay. So after the signaling system test incident, MTLCL has completed rectification of software, and the upgrading system will be completed to ensure safety. And then the new signal system will be commissioned to ensure that new trains can be put into service earlier. The MTLCL has discussed with the train supplier to change the design of the trains so that the existing signal system equipment can be fitted into M trains. And as I said, some M trains were delivered to Hong Kong and some started service last week. The government will continue to urge the administration, the MTLCL, to proceed smoothly and progressively. Mr. Michael TIEN, which part of your question has been answered? I'm saying why not all Q trains are delivered to Hong Kong and use the current signaling system so as to replace all M trains? Your question has been answered. Any supplement from the Secretary, please? None? All right, Mr. Stanley Ng. Mr. Stanley Ng. President, monopoly by the MTLCL is such that it is actually holding ransom of the government, holding the government ransom. I think we must replace the trains as soon as possible. My question is whether the government can urge MTLCL to put in more resources to replace the trains earlier, and can the replacement schedule be made public so that members of the public can enjoy more comfortable Q trains earlier? Can the government urge the MTLCL to spend more resources so that the corporation can, in terms of training and maintenance? Mr. Ng, you can only ask one question in one time, at one time. You've already asked your question. Please be seated. Secretary. Thank you, President. As I said, in 2015, MTLCL ordered 93 new trains, but because of the signaling system, the first train has been recently commissioned. According to the current plan, MTLCL expect 3 to 10 trains fitted with existing signaling equipment will be commissioned within this year in 2023 for Kwun Tong Line, and 10 M trains with the existing equipment system can be commissioned in 2024 and 25 on Hong Kong line. I understand that members would want new trains to be put into service as soon as possible, but then upon delivery, these trains have to go through very stringent testing. And on arrival at Hong Kong, we have to carry out a massive checking and testing before EMSD and Transport Department can be satisfied, and then the trains can be put into service. I understand members' concern. I will continue to urge MTLCL to see whether there is any room for early commissioning of new trains. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, President. We have seen 2 incidents of train door dislodgement. More important still is the cause of distortion. It was because of collision with foreign objects. We have to be concerned with the governance of MTLCL. There are 4 government representatives on the board. Mr. Hui, SFST, Mr. Lam, Secretary for Labour and Transport, Mr. Lau, Secretary for Development, and Commissioner for Transport, Ms. Law. Now, there are 4 officials on the board of MTLCL. How involved are they in the meetings of MTLCL board to ensure that the governance of MTLCL is up to public expectations? Secretary. In my earlier reply to question 1, I said that there are 19 members in the board of MTLCL. 4 of them are from the government. And the chairman is also appointed by the government. These 4 board members, apart from attending board meetings, are also members of 2 committees under the board. They are actively involved in affairs of the board and closely follow the overall strategy of MTLCL and also matters related to safety and maintenance and repair. From time to time, they express views to the board on matters of concern to the public to ensure that their governance strategy can catch up with the times and also up to public expectation, and to ensure the new railway projects are properly planned and implemented. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, President, from time to time, we have seen time and again major incidents involving our trains. I think there are big problems when it comes to the governance of the MTLCL. Perhaps it's because of the aging of some of our trains. And the Secretary told us that there was nothing wrong with the current repair and maintenance of railway assets. This attitude won't do. We must prevent the recurrence of such major incidents. As a member said just now, will the government consider holding the senior management of MTLCL accountable? Depending on the seriousness of incidents, they should be fined. I think this is a good measure. Secretary, are you going to do this? Secretary, thank you, President. I appreciate members' concern on the supervision of railway safety. In my main reply and replies to follow, I said that we've already done this and will continue to do this. First, preventive maintenance, and secondly, the use of technology to monitor the operation of our railway systems. After these incidents, I've already urged MTLCL, or EMSD has urged MTLCL. Now we have a railway system that is 270 kilometers long. The corporation has been urged to check whether there will be other obstacles or trackside equipment that may fall into the tracks, leading to further incidents or accidents. Within 6 months, MTLCL will have to complete the repair and monitoring. As regards to question by the member, in my main reply, I already said that we're going to reflect the views of members to the board of MTLCL. Thank you.
Question 3, Honorable LAM San-keung. Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry about that. President, it is believed that the
market, we do have for the government's consultation services, it will affect Hong Kong. In fact, it is said that we would like to become a resolution center. The government has to promote our professional services, but then in the policy address, we haven't got any policy to make sure that the sector will be promoted. I want to know whether we have got policies to make sure that when it comes to the procurement of professional services and professional consultancy services, there will be a policy to say that there will be priority to be given to local capital or mainland capital enterprises. If there's a policy, please explain. If not, why not? Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, having consulted the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, the Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Bureau, the Development Bureau, the Environment and Ecology Bureau, the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, and the Department of Justice, my reply to the members' question is as follows. The government has been attaching great importance and support to the development of professional services. The National 14th Five-Year Plan establishes a strategic positioning for Hong Kong's future development at the national level and supports Hong Kong in reinforcing and enhancing its competitive advantages in the development of the 8 centres. The Chief Executive announced in the 2022 policy address the establishment of the steering group on integration into national development to proactively promote high-quality development and cooperation between Hong Kong and the Belt and Road countries in areas including trade and commerce and professional services, with a view to expanding Hong Kong's international connections and exploring the global market. In respect of procurement, the government has been procuring various professional services and professional consultancy services to meet its operational needs. Its government's procurement policy to encourage more participation through fair, open, and competitive procedures, so as to obtain goods and services at the best value for money in support of the government's programs and work. Hong Kong is a signatory to the agreement on government procurement of the World Trade Organization. When conducting relevant procurements, the government abides by the WTO GPA principles to treat all local and non-local supplies on an equal footing. Non-compliance with the relevant principles would render Hong Kong at the risk of being challenged. Nevertheless, the government has always welcomed local professional service sectors to participate in government procurement. For instance, among DOJ's procurement of legal services in 2021-22, an estimated 97% of the total value was attributable to local counsel, arbitrators, professionals. For the Development Bureau, local and mainland contractors and local consultant firms comprise respectively 80% of the total value of public works-related procurement in the past 3 financial years. For the Environmental Protection Department, enterprises owned by local or mainland capital accounted for 96% of the total procurement value of professional services on environmental studies in 2021-22. And for departments under the ITIB's purview, local or mainland enterprises covered 95% of the total procurement value of professional services. The Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau has also implemented measures to remove barriers to facilitate the participation of small and medium enterprises and startups in government procurement by requiring procuring departments not to set tenderers' experience as an essential requirement and requiring the weighting of tenderers' experience should not exceed 15% of the total technical marks in the tender assessment. At the same time, government bureaus and departments have also been proactively fostering the development of professional service sectors through various multi-pronged measures. As mentioned in the 2022 policy address, the Professional Services Advancement Support Scheme, PASS of CDB, supports projects undertaken by professional bodies and relevant eligible groups on exchanges, publicity, and enhancement of professional standards. with a view to promoting the development of Hong Kong's professional services. $50 million has been set aside under the pass to subsidize Hong Kong major professional service bodies to participate in relevant exchanges, publicity, and professional standard enhancement activities organized by the government and Hong Kong Trade Development Council, so as to encourage Hong Kong's professional services sectors to step up promotion of Hong Kong's competitive edges and the professional services to the mainland, including the Greater Bay Area cities and overseas markets after the pandemic has stabilized. As regards legal services, with a view to enhancing the technological capabilities of the legal sector in the provision of legal and dispute resolution service, the UFJ has established the Law Tech Fund in 2020 to assist small and medium-sized law firms and barristers' chambers in procuring information technology systems and arranging staff training. Over 500 applications, accounting for over 70% of the target law firms and barristers' chambers, have been received, and each would receive a subsidy up to $50,000. The DFJ has also provided the Hong Kong Legal Cloud Fund of about $15.7 million to subsidize local legal and dispute resolution professionals for subscription to the Hong Kong Legal Cloud Services, an online facility equipped with advanced information security technology to provide safe, secure, and affordable data storage services for the sector. On accounting services, the government has attached importance to the high quality and sustainable development of Hong Kong's accounting profession. FSTB has launched various measures under the framework of the Agreement on Trade in Services of the Mainland and Hong Kong Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement to facilitate the provision of professional services by Hong Kong accountants in the mainland. The government is also pursuing measures that may facilitate Hong Kong accountants' practice in the Greater Bay Area. Other supporting measures include the Construction Innovation and Technology Fund, established by the Development Bureau in 2018 with an approved allocation of $1 billion. An additional $1.2 billion has been injected this year to encourage effective adoption of innovation technology in the construction and engineering sectors with a view to enhancing productivity and competitiveness. The Environmental Academy of the EPD has collaborated with various professional societies to provide the graduates with professional training course, Green Pro training program, to equip them with different areas of expertise in environmental protection. The Office of the Government Chief Information Officer has established the Smart Government Innovation Lab to create more business opportunities for local professional sector by inviting them to provide IT solutions which can enhance public services. These are some of the key measures implemented by government to promote the development of local professional services. Relevant bureaus will maintain communication with stakeholders of their respective policy portfolio to continue formulating policies in support of the local professional service sectors. Mr. Lam, I thank the government for telling us about the WTO GPA as well as the countermeasures despite the government policies. If the government would like to invite overseas talents to provide professional services, which will also allow local professionals to have the opportunity to learn from them. Thank you, President. Thank you, Member, for the supplementary question. Well, when we call for tenders, we don't actually make a distinction between overseas or local tenderers. We are being open and fair in our tendering exercise. As stated in our main reply, according to the data, you can see that the local participation rate is high. We have also removed a lot of barriers so as to facilitate the participation of SMEs, in particular local SMEs, so that it's easier for them to take part in our tendering exercise. Mr. Robert Lee, thank you, Mr. President. When it comes to the procurement of professional services, to what extent would you give consideration to local tenderers as well as SMEs? Say, for example, for the research into investment, outreach, hedging, etc. I think you should give them opportunities so that they can integrate into the overall national development of our country. So among the government departments and bureaus, how can you make sure that such SMEs will become qualified for taking part in tendering exercises? Secretary. Thank you, President. I would like to divide the answer into two parts. For local enterprises, in particular local SMEs, as mentioned before, we have had different policies to remove the barriers so as to facilitate the participation of local SMEs. Let me add a point here to encourage SMEs and startups to take part and to make sure that they have a high chance of getting the tender. We have been making sure that the SMEs will not have cash flow problems by making sure that there will be timely payments. Many SMEs are local SMEs in relation to the number of SMEs that appeared in my data in the reply. We have been resorting to different measures to encourage local enterprises to have exchanges with others. Bureaus will keep up a dialogue with the relevant professions. Lastly, I want to add a point here. Currently, local professional bodies and local chambers of commerce are in close liaison with us. We'll make sure that local professional services sectors are aware of our latest policies and practices. Ms. Maggie Chen just now mention has been made about the legal sector as well as the Law Tech Fund. For the $50,000 available as a subsidy, many have already spent the money, and it's easy to exhaust the $50,000 just by acquiring some hardware and some software. Are you going to relaunch the Law Tech Fund as it was done in the year 2020? Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Member, for her question. Let me first of all talk about the Law Tech Fund and its latest position. At the end of the day, over 500 applications were received, accounting for over 70% of the target law firms and barristers' chambers, and each received a subsidy of up to $50,000. I think the outcome was favorable. As to whether it will be further extended, we will take up the matter with the DFJ, and the members' suggestion will be reflected to the DFJ. Dr. Chow Man Kwong, in the main reply, the Secretary emphasized that we had to abide by the procurement principles of the WTO Government Procurement Agreement. In fact, we can promote SMEs locally. He hasn't explained the policies. I want to know whether there will be changes to our policies, say, for example, streamlining the procurement procedures and the tendering exercises and lowering the amount or the value of the service to be procured so as to make sure that local SMEs are more competitive. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Member, for your question. Well, the WTO GPA is a multilateral agreement and is binding on the signatories, including Hong Kong, China. If any party to the GPA breaches the promise or the undertaking, there will be consequences. If we breach the undertaking, other signatories, other parties may take action against us in relation to the loss suffered. There will be a dispute resolution mechanism under the WTO GPA. If it is ruled that we are indeed in breach of the policy, then we have to rectify it and we have to make compensation to the complainant. And then the complainant or the complaining party may also retaliate by withdrawing the undertaking. So I'm afraid there will be an impact on our trade, as this will affect our enterprises' chance in taking part in the government procurement exercises of the foreign countries. Of course, we'll facilitate and promote the development and growth of our local SMEs. Let me say this once again. In my main reply, we have already lowered the threshold for tendering, like no longer requiring experience to be regarded as an essential requirement, and the weighting of 10 years experience should not exceed 15%. Mega projects would also be broken into smaller projects, and that means that SMEs can find it easier to take part. SMEs are of such a scale that it may be more difficult for them to deal with the paperwork. So we've asked departments to streamline and simplify the tender documents so as to ease the burden on the SMEs. Dr. Lui Guo, in the main reply, President, the Secretary emphasized the fact that Hong Kong is a signatory to the agreement on government procurement of the WTO. We have to abide by the procurement principles, and we have to treat all local and non-local suppliers on an equal footing. However, protectionism is being practiced by the foreign countries, and in fact, we are being sort of affected. It has been said that the government should be criticized for being too tame. Of course, we are against all sorts of protectionism. I want to know if the government has examined the performance of the signatories and whether they have adopted legitimate measures to protect and to promote their own enterprises, so that in the light of that, we refine our own policies. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you for this question so that I can explain a bit more about our policies. We are always in favor of liberalization of trade. Together with 14 other signatories, we have been writing to protest the U.S. Attempt to remove medical supplies from the list of government procurements. And as a result, the U.S. government has withdrawn that threat. So it is effective. We will continue to uphold the principles of the agreement, and we will follow the scope covered, and we will monitor the performance of other signatories so as to make sure that all the signatories will follow the principles when it comes to government procurement. Mr. Tony TSE. Thank you, Mr. President. Just now, Dr. Lui Guo has already said that time and again, the Secretary emphasized that when it comes to government procurement, the government will be fair, open, and competitive in our procedures and principles. My question is, we would like to emphasize our integration into the overall national development, in particular, the Greater Bay Area. Does it mean that you are not going to fight for more opportunities for our local professional services? If not, why not? Secretary, thank you. President, I think the member has got a good point. Just now we talked about helping the local enterprises in securing government procurement contracts. On the other hand, we help our enterprises to tap into the mainland market, in particular the Greater Bay Area market, including government procurement contracts as well. As I have said, the CE in the 2022 policy address established the steering group on integration into national development so as to proactively promote high-quality development of cooperation between Hong Kong and other countries. And this will also expand Hong Kong's international connections and explore the global market. I can also defer to my colleague, the Under Secretary for Constitutional Mainland Affairs, for more details. For the Greater Bay Area and other areas, different policy bureaus have been relying on our regular liaison with the commissions and ministries at the national level as well as the provincial levels. We have got dozens of working groups with Guangdong and Shenzhen. As the Undersecretary has said, we have the steering group on integration into national government, headed by the CE himself personally, with participation of all the directors of bureaus. We'll try to see how we can have cooperation for different sectors and different professions, so that we can make good use of the mainland market, in particular the Greater Bay Area markets, for the sake of our professional services. Mr. Stanley Li, well, you need to be in the core group before you can get the tenders, and then you will win before the race starts. So are you aware of the size of the talent pool for each and every professional service before you can be sure that you can take the proactive stance to go out to promote our professional services? Secretary. Well, for the procurement for services in different areas like legal services, public works projects under the Development Bureau, environmental services under the EPD, as well as the IT IB's services. Well, local enterprises appear prominently. We will look at the demand for professional services by our administration, so that the local professional bodies are aware of our position. Earlier on, the FSTB itself has organized an event, and this is an exhibition on the procurement for digital applications. 40 suppliers, 75% of them are local ones, so that they know more about our latest procurement needs. And then government departments that were present will also be aware of the availability of the different solutions developed by local enterprises. So we are going to have such events so as to match them, so that the sector would know about our needs. Thank you.
Question number 4, Dr. Johnny NG. Thank you, Mr. President. Recently, the government has issued a policy statement on development of virtual assets in Hong Kong, setting out the government's policy stance and approach towards developing a vibrant sector in the ecosystem for virtual assets of VA in Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. Given that the government will set up the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited (HKIC) to further optimize the use of fiscal reserves for promoting the development of industries and the economy, whether the government will instruct HKIC to make more investments relating to Web 3.0 based VA technologies, so as to attract more enterprises to come to Hong Kong and enhance the development of the VA market. 2. Given the VA markets are subject to high volatility, and from time to time there is news of cryptocurrencies crashing or enterprises going bankrupt, whether the government will examine and develop a more comprehensive regulatory framework and sounder risk management, as well as put forward as soon as possible specific regulatory policies so as to better protect investors while actively developing the market. And 3. Given that quite a number of regions, including Singapore, have embarked on the race to develop their VA markets and Web 3.0 related services, whether the government has put in place a short-term development roadmap and timetable for catching up with the lag and accelerating the development of Hong Kong's VA market. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. Mr. President, my reply to the 3 parts of Dr. Johnny Ng's question is as follows. The government attaches importance to the development of fintech and virtual assets, VA. In October this year, we issued the Policy Statement on Development of Virtual Assets in Hong Kong, or Policy Statement, setting out the vision and policy direction of the government. The government and the financial regulators are committed to establishing a facilitating environment with timely and necessary guardrails to mitigate actual and potential risks put in place in accordance with international standards, so as to promote the sustainable and responsible development of the VA sector in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Investment Corporation, or HKIC, will consolidate the management of the investment activities of the Hong Kong Growth Portfolio, the Greater Bay Area Investment Fund, the Strategic Tech Fund, and the Co-Investment Fund. By identifying investment opportunities and strategically promoting the development of target industries, the HKIC seeks to enhance the long-term competitiveness and economic vitality of Hong Kong while generating investment return. The government is at the stage of formulating the institutional arrangements and governance structure of the HKIC and will announce the details in due course. As to part 2 and 3 of the Honourable Member's question, our reply is as follows. We consider that a comprehensive and balanced regulatory system can protect investor interests and promote industry development. Under the principle of same business, same risk, same rules, the Securities and Futures Commission, or SFC, has since 2018 established a holistic regulatory framework for VA, covering the provision of VA-related services by traditional financial service intermediaries, such as VA fund management and distribution of VA-related products, and transactions conducted by centralized VA exchanges. The SFC and the Hong Kong Monetary Authority further issued a joint circular earlier this year to provide guidelines for intermediaries intending to engage in VA-related services. I share Dr. Ng's view that investor protection is of utmost importance. To enhance the above regulatory framework, the government introduced into the Legislative Council in July this year legislative proposals to establish a licensing regime for VA service providers. Any person intending to operate the VA exchange business must apply for a license from the SFC. Under the proposed licensing regime, licensed exchanges must comply with the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing requirements, as well as the regulatory requirements on investor protection. As mentioned in the second part of Dr. Ng's question, the recent operational crisis of a VA exchange has clearly shown the importance of a comprehensive regulation of VA exchanges to investor protection. In fact, we have already taken preventive measures in the current and future regulatory frameworks to address the risks of any similar incidents, including requirements that the licensed VA exchange must ensure proper asset custody, such as holding client assets in a segregated account under a wholly owned subsidiary established by the licensed exchange for the purpose of proper segregation of client assets and assets of the exchange, ensure financial soundness, such as complying with the financial resources requirements and maintaining at least 12 months of actual operating expenses, and avoid conflicts of interest. For example, no participation in proprietary market-making activities. In addition, a licensed VA exchange is required to regularly submit to the SFC its audited accounts and financial statements and those of its wholly owned subsidiaries. The SFC will also have powers to enter the business premises of a licensed VA exchange, conduct inspection and investigate, such as to request the exchange to provide business records, as well as intervening powers, such as to request the exchange to operate in a specified manner. The government and the SFC welcome quality VA service providers' participation in the VA market in Hong Kong, which helps promote effective and healthy market competition. Hong Kong is a pioneer to implement a comprehensive regulatory regime which can increase investor confidence in VA service providers regulated in Hong Kong. We have been monitoring the latest development of VA and examine from time to time whether there is a need to provide necessary guidelines on the regulatory requirements. In October this year, the SFC issued a circular on exchange-traded funds, ETFs, with VA futures as underlying, providing details on the authorization of VA futures ETFs for public offering in Hong Kong. This in turn gives recognition to ETFs which provide exposure to mainstream VAs with comprehensive investor protection guardrails. In addition, the SFC notes that more traditional financial instruments intend to tokenize traditional financial instruments. As such, tokens have similar terms, features, and risks as traditional securities. The SFC plans to issue a circular to update its policy on security token offering. The government will continue to seize opportunities to promote the development of the VA industry in Hong Kong under a holistic regulatory system for facilitating a sustainable and sound establishment of the VA ecosystem in Hong Kong. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Johnny Ng, thank you, Mr. President. VA is the new growth point for the financial services sector. We must grasp this opportunity. However, it is speculative in nature, and speculation is prevalent.
are there any ways for the government to ensure that the traditional financial services sector will combine its forces with the new VA to benefit the public? Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, member. As I set out in the main reply, we need to be careful about the potential and the opportunities brought about by VAs, and we also need to provide regulation. I'm not going to repeat the main reply, but apart from regulation, investor protection is also of importance. Hence, we will also work on enhancing investor education. In fact, the Investor Education Committee under the SFC holds regular activities to disseminate information to the public about the risks of VA as part of the public education strategy to help the public understand comprehensively the risks entailed in VA trading. In early October, the Center also held a webinar on this topic during the International Investor Education Week, and over 230,000 hits were recorded on the internet. And we are closely monitoring the development of VA ecosystem around the world because, as we mentioned, the licensing regime will mostly focus on regulating VA service providers and exchanges. And with the development of Web 3.0, and as I said, it's still at this initial phase of development, we will be joining hands with global regulators and closely monitoring the development and update our regime. Mr. Duncan Chiu. Mr. President, VA is still at this budding stage. But I want to say that as far as virtual assets are concerned, it's not just about cryptocurrencies. There is still great potential for furthering the development of the sector. And cryptocurrency is just one part of virtual assets. And after the government issued the policy statement, it has received a positive response in the sector. And about the recent happenings in the global arena, there are more calls for regulations to be stepped up. As we are premier legal hub, I believe the market will welcome any proposed regulatory regime. There is a so-called crypto winter at the moment, and after phasing out the bad ones, the quality service providers will remain. So it's all about attracting the unicorn companies. For example, we have various funds. Is there anything we can do to attract more quality enterprises to come to Hong Kong? Say for quality VA enterprises with higher safety coefficient to come to set up offices in Hong Kong. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, member, for the questions. I'd like to explain a number of matters. First, after a spate of incidents have happened recently, there is a greater awareness that high risk would occur as a result of poor regulation. Hence, there is a need to set up a licensing regime. For example, there are a number of concerns under the regime. We need to ensure financial soundness and also ensuring investor protection and avoiding conflicts of interest, so as to ensure that the licensees will be of quality. This will help us meet the policy objective. That is, we set up a regulated environment for quality service providers to carry out VA activities. And I agree with the honourable member that apart from introducing a regulatory regime, we also need to mount publicity and promotion. And in fact, Invest Hong Kong has a dedicated team which has been in close liaison with the global counterparts. In fact, in the recent months, I have met with various VA service providers, and they are interested in the market developments in Hong Kong, and our Bureau and Invest Hong Kong will continue to grasp opportunities so as to publicize and promote the business advantages of Hong Kong to these enterprises. The Honourable Member just now also mentioned the co-investment fund to be set up and whether VA-related companies will be included. May I say that at the moment, the Hong Kong Investment Corporation is in the process of forming its management in terms of its governance structure, so on and so forth. Details have yet to be announced. It's still in progress, but the objective of the HKIC is to drive the development of target industries by identifying investment opportunities. So as long as these opportunities can help drive the development of target industries, they will be considered. Mr. Andrew Lam. Mr. President, in the second part of the Secretary's reply to Dr. Ng's question, he mentioned that in terms of investor protection, the proposed regulatory regime will require the VA exchanges to set up a wholly owned subsidiary with a segregated account so as to put in place proper segregation of client assets and assets of the exchange. So when it comes to the segregated account, do you mean that these accounts will be subject to regulation to prevent drain of assets as they exit the local market? Secretary. The answer is in the affirmative. One highlight of the regulatory framework is to tackle the existing issues in the market, and that is to ensure proper custody of assets. As I explained just now, the VA exchange must hold client assets in a segregated account under a wholly owned subsidiary for the purpose of proper segregation of client assets and assets of the exchange. And let me explain more about proper segregation. That means it should be an independent entity, or segregation can be established through a trust, and both will be subject to our regulation. Dr. Loy Kwok. Mr. President, VA is a novel concept, is full of opportunities and challenges. We support Hong Kong in taking up this role as a pioneer. However, Hong Kong cannot stand on its own when it comes to regulation. In terms of driving development, come regulation, the global arena also plays a vital role. One example is as follows. Cryptocurrencies, well, there have been a lot of fluctuations in their prices. So my question is, how does the Hong Kong SAR government consider the role to play in the international community? Will an international organization be set up? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Member, for the question. Let me explain 2 points. Our regulators on a regular basis exchange views on VA-related rules such as Financial Action Task Force. We communicate with this international organization. It promulgates guidelines on VA, which we take as reference. And on this occasion, we also make a reference from the FATF's recommendation. For SFC, we have IOSCO, that is the international organization tasked with regulation of securities. And from time to time, we have exchanged with this organization on matters relating to VA. So these are the two available platforms. We also make reference from international experience, and we also have regard to our own development needs. As I explained in my reply, we act as a pioneer. And should we introduce a licensing regime, we will be taking steps ahead of other Asian economies. And in this regard, we have taken into account what we've seen recently, as well as the international experience and feedback and consideration we have received from international platforms and the relevant discussions. Mr. Holden Chow. Secretary. Well, of course, I welcome the government's initiative in introducing a licensing regime and acting as a pioneer. But as I said on various occasions, that if we take a look at what happens around the world, we have some VA exchanges that are unlicensed. Now, what happens if Hong Kong investors invest their money via a licensed VA exchange? And then, of course, it's safer. But will there be certain facilitation measures for licensed exchanges in Hong Kong comparing to investing in an unlicensed VA exchange? So it's part of investor protection and education. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Member, for the question. Indeed, after we introduce the licensing regime, investors will be able to recognize licensed VA service providers and exchanges in Hong Kong. This will help boost the confidence of investors in VA service providers. As for overseas VA service providers and platforms, once legislation is put in place, they will not be able to actively promote and sell the products to Hong Kong investors. So that's a clear understanding. And investor education is also important. As I explained, the Education Center is now actively preparing for a series of activities. We have been doing so, but we also have a plan to roll out various initiatives and activities in the future to help investors understand the latest licensing regime and also the risks entailed and what choices they should make when they invest in VA. Mr. Stanley Li. Mr. President, I understand that many young people make investments in the securities market. Now, for the VA market, as the Secretary mentioned, is something new. Will you consider investor education in universities? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Member, for the question. In terms of investor education, we agree that we should start with the young ones, and that is why we start our efforts at the secondary school level even as an ongoing initiative. And I agree with the Honourable Member that VA is an important topic nowadays, and we will be working with universities in stepping up investor education, and we'll also include education on VA.
Question 5, Mr. Benson LUK. Thank you, President. It is learned that environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, have become important new indicators adopted worldwide for measuring enterprises' performances in their business operations. Since year 2016, the stock exchange has also required Hong Kong's listed companies to disclose their ESG reports. However, the ESG reporting approaches and indicators adopted by Hong Kong enterprises are not the same and lack unified objective assessment standards. Furthermore, relevant authorities around the world are establishing their own ESG assessment standards and certification systems, as well as striving for more widespread recognition in this respect. so as to become an international ESG investment hub. In this connection, with the government inform this council, one of the plans for the coming 3 years put in place by the government to develop Hong Kong into the ESG investment hub of Asia, to establish unified ESG standards and to mobilize various sectors in formulating standards for their respective industries. 2. To tie in with the aforesaid plans, what measures the government has put in place to nurture the ESG-related talents needed by various sectors. And 3. Whether the government will set a good example by gradually introducing ESG operation concepts to various government departments and public bodies, as well as formulating ESG-related performance indicators. If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Thank you, President. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, I thank Mr. Benson LUK for his question. In consultation with the relevant bureaus and financial regulators, my reply to the 3 parts of the question is as follows. 1. The government has been working in concerted efforts with the financial regulators and the industry in taking a multi-pronged strategy to promote green and sustainable finance in Hong Kong. For standard setting, the progress of major measures is as follows. Climate-related disclosure reporting framework for listed companies. The Green and Sustainable Finance Cross-Agency Steering Group, or the Steering Group, requires relevant sectors to make climate-related disclosures in accordance with the recommendations of the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, or the TCFD, by year 2025. The steering group also supports the International Sustainability Standards Board, or the ISSB, to, on the basis of TCFD's efforts, develop a set of more detailed and global sustainability reporting standard. The Securities and Futures Commission, or the SFC, is working with the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong Limited to develop a climate reporting framework for listed companies in Hong Kong, which will align with the global baseline being developed by the ISSB and take into account companies' capabilities and readiness. Taxonomy. To increase transparency across the financial markets and enable consistent policy making on green finance, the steering group will, with the aim of aligning with the common ground taxonomy jointly formulated by the mainland and the European Union, explore developing a green classification framework for adoption in the local market. The steering group has been engaging with the industry and other relevant stakeholders to explore in depth the features and challenges of a local green classification framework and will develop proposals on the structure and core elements of the framework for further consultation. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority, or the HKMA, the SFC, the Insurance Authority, and the Monetary Provident Fund Schemes Authority have formulated regulatory measures to require respective sectors to take into account climate risks in their businesses. 2. The government is committed to strengthening the nurturing of local ESG-related talents, with $200 million earmarked for launching a 3-year pilot green and sustainable finance capacity building support scheme to provide subsidies for the training and acquisition of relevant professional qualifications in sustainable finance. The scheme has started accepting applications for registration as eligible programs since the end of October 2022 and is expected to be officially launched within the year. The eligibility requirements and procedures for individuals to make subsidy applications, the first batch of eligible programs, and other details will be published then. The government and financial regulators have also been working closely with the industry and the academia to take forward various initiatives at the individual and institutional levels to enhance capacity building in green and sustainable finance, which include launching the Green and Sustainable Finance repositories on training, data, and internship opportunities, the Sustainable Finance Internship Initiative, etc., through the steering group. 3. To reduce the total carbon emissions by 50% before year 2035 from the 2005 level in order to achieve the goal of carbon neutrality before year 2050, the Chief Executive's 2022 policy address announced a series of decarbonization efforts in relation to public facilities and services, which include improving the overall energy performance of government buildings and infrastructure by more than 6% by year 2025 to 2024-25, accelerating the incorporation of district cooling systems in new development areas, including the Northern Metropolis, providing an additional 7,000 parking spaces with electric vehicle chargers in government premises in the coming 3 years, launching a trial scheme on food waste collection in public rental housing within the year, etc. The government has implemented a green procurement policy that requires departments to, under cost-effective conditions, procure products and services in accordance with the green product standards promulgated by the Environment and Ecology Bureau in consultation with relevant departments, purchase green products and avoid the use of disposable items, thereby actively promoting carbon reduction, waste reduction, and a circular economy. The government is committed to striking a balance between development and conservation in the implementation of large-scale construction projects. We promote low-carbon construction, emission reduction, and green procurement, including the use of recycled and environmental-friendly construction materials. The government has also put in place a mechanism to score technical proposals for environmental protection, including greening and carbon emissions, digital operation, and innovative concepts in the tendering process. The government's Green Bond program has funded a total of 45 eligible projects so far, which help improve the environment and promote the development of Hong Kong as a more sustainable and livable city. The issuance of government's green bonds will be expanded with a target of increasing the total issuance amount by more than 5 times within the 5 years from 2021 to 22 as compared with the pre-2021 to 22 situation. For the exchange fund, the HAMA has adopted a guiding principle that priority will generally be given to ESG investments if the long-term return is comparable to other investments on a risk-adjusted basis. The HAMA has integrated ESG factors into the public and private markets investment process and is continuously increasing ESG and green investments under the guiding principle. The government will continue to take forward the above work and capitalize on Hong Kong's promising prospects in the development of green and sustainable finance with a view to moving towards the goal of carbon neutrality before year 2050. Thank you, President. Mr. Benson LUK. Thank you, President. In the main reply, I'm pleased to see that the government has promised to continue training local ESG-related financial talents. And also $200 million has been earmarked for launching the 3-year pilot green and sustainable finance capacity building support scheme. This is something that we are looking forward to. In the market and in the private sector, based on young people's needs as well as the industry's aspiration, we have launched a series of ESG-related programs. Many of them would receive subsidies from the continuous education fund. However, the cap is only some $25,000, and many programs have already exceeded the cap. According to the main reply, the administration would strengthen nurturing of ESG talents. I suggest you make reference to the Labor and Welfare Bureau's a measure to allow couples to share health care vouchers. So maybe spouses can also be allowed to share their funding amount under the Continuous Education Fund and to enroll in ESG programs. Thank you for your follow-up question. The member is right. Under the Continuous Education Fund, on the list of programs with reimbursement, there are 9 program fields. For all programs are listed on the qualification framework, ESG programs are also included. We are now having more and more financial related programs under the name of ESG. There are some 10 programs like that, and there are other programs with ESG elements as well. We have been gradually increasing the number of ESG-related programs under the coverage of the Continuous Education Fund. Concerning the operation model of the fund and the suggestion made by the member to increase the number of beneficiaries, we will convey the member's message to the Labor and Welfare Bureau for further discussion. Thank you. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, President. The government should take a leading role as well as a facilitator and promoter role in promoting the concepts of ESG in all sectors of the society rather than confining the ESG to listed companies and financial institutions. Now, different authorities have set out regulatory guidelines requiring sectors to consider climate risk in their operations. As a result, in vetting loan applications, the banks would consider the applicant's ESG performance. For major institutions, especially listed companies, they are well prepared to answer to the bank's assessment. However, SMEs are also being vetted for ESG performance when the banks determine their loan facility and amount. If SMEs cannot meet the requirements, they may not get a loan. So besides the $200 million pilot scheme on training, what measures do the governments have to prepare SMEs and to meet the bank's requirements as well as transform their business? Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, President, and thank you, Member, for your question. The question is highly valid. We have to help SMEs and the economy to transform into a green economy. Besides talent nurturing, financing is very important as well. That's why in last May, we have rolled out the new Green Economy and ESG fund to help the applicants meet the ESG requirements. That is a 3-year program. Many local businesses, especially SMEs, would like to take out loans on green transformation. And the government would take up the cost on external assessment. To benefit more local businesses, earlier this year, we have lowered the eligibility issuance amount from $200 million to $100 million to facilitate more businesses to engage in green financing. With our help, the applicants can secure the services.
Last question seeking an oral reply. The Honourable Stanley. Thank you, Chairman. Some members of the public and media have found that even after the implementation of the Hong Kong National Security Law, NSL, information advocating Hong Kong independence is still all over the place in the community and on the internet. For instance, books on Hong Kong independence are found among the collections of public libraries, e-books on Hong Kong independence have been published on online platforms, and a song on Hong Kong independence, which is claimed as the national anthem of Hong Kong, has even appeared among the search results of internet search engines. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, how the government will take the lead in the work of reviewing the collections of public libraries to see if they comply with the Hong Kong National Security Law, NSL, including how to step up the examination of the contents of those books published by authors or publishers who previously published books on Hong Kong independence, and of the expected time needed for ensuring that all collections do not have any books on Hong Kong independence. 2, whether the government has studied ways to regulate online platforms, for example, the Google eBooks platform, to prevent such platforms from selling books that violate the Hong Kong NSL, and if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. And 3, whether the government will regularly use technologies to review the search results of internet search engines, as well as inform the relevant operators about any false information, including false information concerning national sovereignty, and request their removal of such false information, if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. The Secretary for Security. President, the implementation of the NSL has generally restored order from chaos in Hong Kong. That said, Hong Kong is still facing considerable national security risks. For instance, elements endangering the security of our country and of Hong Kong continue to disseminate messages opposing the central authorities and the Hong Kong SL government through soft resistance means. Meanwhile, according to Article 9 of the NSL, the Hong Kong SL government shall take necessary steps to strengthen public communications, guidance, supervision, and regulation over matters concerning national security, including those on the internet. In view of these, and having consulted the CSTB, ITIB, and HYAB, my reply to the Honourable Stanley's question is as follows. First, in tandem with the implementation of the NSL, the Hong Kong Public Libraries, HKPL, of the LCSD has re-examined and updated the procedures for and guidelines on purchasing library materials and accepting donations of books and periodicals. Safeguarding national security has now been included as one of the considerations to ensure that library collections belonged by members of the public free of charge conform to the laws of Hong Kong. In addition to carefully selecting library materials to be included in the library collection, the HKPL also proactively examines its existing items. Currently, the HKPL has completed a preliminary review of its library stock, including publications of those authors or publishers that have been suspected of publishing books on Hong Kong independence previously, to ensure that materials contrary to the interests of national security will not be included in the collection. Any library material which is suspected of breaching the NSL or the laws will be removed from library shelves immediately. Only when the library material concerned is ascertained about careful examination that its content does not violate the relevant laws will it be put up on the library shelves again. The HKPL will keep reviewing library materials to ensure that library collection does not contain materials that are in breach of the NSL. Second and third points. As regards enforcement actions against illegal information on the Internet, including that endangering national security, I must emphasize that most of the laws enacted to prevent crimes in the real world are in principle applicable to the online world. Any person or organization disseminating contents on the Internet must comply with the relevant requirements of the NSL and other local laws. In particular, various provisions are already in place under the existing legal framework to deal with persons or organizations selling books endangering national security or disseminating false information on the Internet to endanger national security. They include Sections 9 and 10 of the Crimes Ordinance. Such provisions stipulate that any person who utters any seditious words, prints, publishes, sells, distributes, or reproduces any seditious publications and so on, with the intention to bring into hatred against the central authorities or the Hong Kong government, incite persons to violence, counsel disobedience to law, promote feelings of ill will between different classes of the population of Hong Kong, and so on, shall be guilty of an offense. Offences under Chapter 3 of the NSL, Articles 21 and 23 prohibit a person from inciting, assisting in, or abetting the commission of by other persons of the offence of sexation under Article 20 and the offence of subversion under Article 22, respectively. Article 27 also prohibits a person from advocating terrorism or inciting the commission of a terrorist activity. The NSL has extraterritorial effect. Regardless of whether persons who violate the NSL are, they will be dealt with by the Hong Kong government in accordance with the law. In a bid to prevent and detect crimes, the police will conduct online patrols and hold the persons or organizations involved liable for their criminal acts. In fact, law enforcement agencies have successfully taken enforcement actions against a number of cases involving publication, including online publication of seditious information or books. And if an electronic message published on an electronic platform is likely to constitute an offence endangering national security or to cause the occurrence of such an offence, the police may, with the approval of the Secretary for Security, require a service provider to take disabling actions on the electronic message concerned in accordance with Schedule 4 to the implementation rules for the NSL, which include removing the message from the platform or restricting access to the message via the platform by any person. On the other hand, as the facilitator and promoter of innovation and technology development, the Innovation Technology Industry Bureau and the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer have been keeping close liaison with various Internet search engine service providers. In view of a recent case in which an online search for some keywords related to Hong Kong and national anthem through the Internet search engine would be resulting in a song closely associated with serious violence and protests advocating for Hong Kong independence in 2019 being shown on some top search result, ITIB and OGCIO have mounted solemn negotiations with the Internet search engine service providers concerned, which has been requested to, in a serious manner, address the situation and take follow-up actions. The service provider has also been requested in writing to put the correct information at the top of search results. The service provider responded that it would follow up on the case. The government would closely monitor the developments. Lastly, I wish to point out that false information has done serious harm to the society and must be effectively dealt with. Since the serious violence in 2019, there has been an influx of false information in the society. Such information wantonly smears the government and advocates violence and divides the society. The Hong Kong SAR government will, after the conclusion of the consultancy study on addressing the issue of false information, look into the findings of the study and take into consideration the practice and experience in overseas jurisdictions and the relevant difficulties in such jurisdictions to work out a way forward. The Security Bureau will support the HYAB in taking forward the relevant work. Even though there is no legislation against fake news in Hong Kong, other than Sections 9 and 10 of the Crimes Ordinance and the NSL, as mentioned above, various provisions are in place under the existing legal framework to deal with the dissemination of inappropriate information. For example, Section 24 of the Crimes Ordinance concerning criminal intimidation, Section 23 concerning blackmail, Section 16 concerning fraud, and Section 17 concerning obtaining property by deception of the theft ordinance. Bureaus and departments of the Hong Kong SAR government will continue to take action on all fronts to address the issue, to curb the dissemination of false information endangering national security, and prevent people from being agitated or incited by false information released by persons or organizations with ulterior motives. Mr. Stanley, thank you. President, on the 1st of July, President Xi delivered a speech in Hong Kong containing 4 expectations and 4 musts. And we must maintain stability and harmony in Hong Kong. In his main reply, the secretary said that the government would talk to the relevant service platform. But if these service platforms are located overseas and they refuse to remove messages involving the advocacy of Hong Kong independence, what measures does the government have to deal with such overseas platforms? Secretary for Security. According to what I said, we have several laws, including Article 43 of the NSL and also the Crimes Ordinance, the voyeurism regulations, and also the PO's provisions. We can, in relation to the certain crimes, can issue injunction orders requiring removal of certain messages. These have extraterritorial authority, so we can issue such orders to require removal of such messages. So I'll see if the ITIB has anything to add. Thank you, President. As said in the main reply, well, the internet world is not a world beyond the law. Many of the laws applicable to the real world are applicable to the internet world, including the social media, instant messaging software, and also information that can be found on the search engine platforms. Anyone who disseminates information on such platforms must meet with the Hong Kong law's requirements. The ITIB and the OGCIO have been following up on the specific cases, and we have also been negotiating with the relevant service provider. On the 21st of November, we met with the relevant service provider. We asked them to face up to the problem, and we have asked the service provider to put in writing, to put the correct information at the top of the search results. The provider responded that it would follow up on the case. The government would closely monitor the developments, and if needed, we would, together with the relevant bureaus and departments, to study into the policies and measures concerned to make sure that there is vibrant development on the internet in Hong Kong. Ms. Eunice Yung. Well, the national anthem on the search engine has been seeing problems. We have seen the setbacks in the government's policy towards on the internet. Well, it is already too late to ask for enhancements on these service platforms. We are too late. Does the government have a dedicated team in dealing with this? Say for the ITIB and the OGCIO, is there a dedicated team to look at the source data on the internet so that the correct information can be put at the top of research results. That it doesn't make sense for us to actually spend money on this. So is there a dedicated team to work on the enhancement measures on the search engines and also the social media platforms? Who to take the question? IB? Thank you, President, and thank you, the member, for your question. In enhancing the search engines on the internet, we are working on that specifically. Let me report this. We are working on many fronts. Through many channels, we have disseminated information, correct information, national anthem, national emblem, including, say, the government websites, and the correct information has been put on these websites to facilitate the members of the public in searching such information on the internet. On the technical front, we are continuing with our enhancement work on search engine optimization, SEO. So the keywords are put there, and we also improve on the mix and match of keywords. We will increase matching functions. We would also be increasing the linkages to the text instead of linkages to the graphics. And we are also publishing articles on the internet. And through various channels, we will make sure that the keywords are linked to the correct web pages. And on the technical side, we see that the logarithms of the search engines are changing all the time, and many more users are using mobile devices to search certain results. And then we will try to increase the mobile first indexing function. So the SEO work is on that front. So this enhancement work will continue to make sure that the right results are being searched. Mr. Edward Leung, if foreign people don't know how to play the correct anthem, they will search for the national anthem. And then, well, actually, on the first page, songs related to Hong Kong independence appear mostly. Now, if we press the video function, well, the songs advocating for Hong Kong independence still appear. So your work has not been thorough. So how are you going to deal with the problem going forward? These service providers have been checking their responsibility. They said that in the Hong Kong office is responsible for sales, and if on the technical issues, well, the U.S. headquarters deal with it. Well, I am also an aggrieved person. And every time when I search for Edward Leung, the Leung Tin K name comes up. So at an individual level, how can we reflect our own problems? Is there any channel for us to address, to air our grievances? Can you not do a more thorough job? Undersecretary for ITI, please. Well, the SEO work will continue. The member referred to the linkages to graphics and comics and so on, and some of the buttons are not linked to texts. So this is exactly where we have to work on in relation to the technical side. We will be using functions to enhance the linkages to text instead of to graphics and comics. We have to enhance the mix and match of the word keywords, and in relation to the tagging, we must put in more tags, and we have to adjust the logarithms and so on. Regarding the functions of the internet search engines, they will adopt mainly the automatic algorithms. First, there will be clawing, and based on the automatic functions, then contents, pictures can be searched. That's why we said that we have to put in more accurate tagging and also indexing. And then there will be search functions in the algorithms, and there will also be the setting of priorities based on different factors, including, say, the location of the user and the devices that the users use. So these are the key factors which come into play. So the government will, based on the changes in the algorithms, will make adjustments and further our work. Here, well, the algorithms of search engines will work based on the keywords input and also the frequency of the search and so on. Well, the information on the internet changes all the time. So even if the user uses the same keyword to search for results at different times, the results will change. So I think we advise users to refer to official websites to search for information. I must emphasize that. Sorry? Well, I think your answer is too long-winded, is too repetitive. You are hindering or you are shortening our time in raising questions. Please be succinct. So any platform must abide with the relevant laws. Ms. Regina Yip. Well, I must stress again that the Undersecretary's question is too long-winded and repetitive. You haven't answered our question. Mrs. Regina Yip, I'm coming to my question. Now, if you key in national anthem and then that black flag violence song comes up, then your enhancement doesn't work. Have you looked into the Singapore Act, and that is a Protection from Online Falsehoods and Manipulation Act? Well, the relevant official has been empowered to issue directives to ask the internet service providers and online platforms to abide by the official's order to remove certain information and to assist in investigations on whether foreign forces are involved. You look at the very comprehensive law in Singapore. It's better to rely on the crimes ordinance in Hong Kong's. Secretary for Security, we know that Singapore has a relevant law in that regard. In the legislation on Article 23, we have taken reference from that law or act. But should it be replicated in Hong Kong? That's not the case. We have actually enacted our law based on our own local situation. I confirm that we know about this law, and that was taken as a reference. Dr. Teck Chee-yuen, President, Hong Kong people attach a lot of importance to NSL. A lot of people would not break the law. The NSL is something new. Do you have sufficient guidelines so that people know where the line was drawn to ensure that the press freedom and freedom of publication in Hong Kong can still be safeguarded? Thank you. Whether it's the NSL or the basic law, there are provisions saying that Hong Kong can still enjoy a freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and so on. And for the NSL's implementation, we do have guidelines to guide our colleagues on how to enforce the law. And we have accumulated experience and investigations, and there are also directives coming from the court as well. So we have every confidence that we can enforce this law properly.
Government bills, first reading.